Back to Beyond the Buckets. Happy to have Mr. Kelly Oubre Sr. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here.
Thank you for coming down to San Jose. You're living in San Francisco right now. And tell me how you've enjoyed being in the Bay Area.
It's a little chilly in the Bay, I must admit. Coming from Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
And having to get used to it. Got an apartment downtown, not too far from the arena. And I realized how cold San Francisco Bay can be, because I have a straight shot as I walk out my front door, and if I look to the left, it's all water. So, I can really feel it. And I'm right outside of McCovey Cove, too. So
if you come down a little south, it's a little bit warmer. It's probably 10 degrees warmer and less cloudy. But you told me on our pre-call that you don't like to unpack boxes, especially with the lifestyle that you and your son are living now in the NBA, and anything could really change daily. So tell me what that's like, not really feeling comfortable, even though you're in a new city and you really like the situation now. Right. But it's always interesting to me to hear those type of dynamics.
Yeah, it's strange. It's almost like a lifestyle that's hard for other people to relate to. Being constantly on the move and somewhat, just always paying attention to the news, but not so much paying attention to it because, there are certain guys in the league that happen to always be in trade talks,
right,
for whatever reason. And I have my theories about why that is, and that's fine. But at some point, it gets kind of hard to buy in to the standard cliches that come along with being comfortable in your own space,
right,
in a basketball on a basketball team, and being in the support of a professional basketball player, which I am. I'm his manager. So, it's hard to hang TVs. It's hard to unpack boxes. I still have a couple of boxes at home that, for the life of me, I refuse to unpack. I might look at them every once in a while because I know that March 25th is right around the corner.
Right.
And that is a trade deadline for the NBA. And it's kind of difficult. More for me, I hope, than for him, because he normally can go to a city and get acclimated very quickly.
Right.
He and his fiance, and they just, I guess they're young and more apt to doing that kind of stuff. Whereas me, I kind of look at the big picture.
Right.
So it's hard for me to consider myself prepared for the unknown.
Yeah.
If I'm not somewhat, cognizant of the fact that this could all be gone tomorrow.
Right.
And I look at it like a four walls concept. It's hard for me to get used to places, apartments, condos. I don't want to buy a house because it's kind of, it's just not the right time for me. I'm all about timing.
Right.
And if I do go down that road and buy a house, then it'll have to be somewhere where I intend on staying for quite a while. And quite frankly, I appreciate the area and the city. I was happy to drive out today to do this because I was able to get away and clear my head and think. And it kind of reminded me when I was making my trips back and forth from New Orleans to Houston on those 5-hour journeys, and being able to think and clear my head and just put some music on, or just keep it very quiet inside the vehicle.
There's the drives. I don't know if you took 280 or not, but I think you probably did. It's a great drive to, like you just said, clear your head and just kind of, whether it be listen to music or be in silence. A lot of the times I like to just be in silence. There's so much noise coming from all around, and especially because I got 2 young kids too. My wife just kind of, she always just loves it when it's just quiet. Right. So it's quiet is definitely a peaceful thing, and just kind of centers you a little bit. Yeah. You talked about Kelly Jr.'s fiance. They just got engaged, I believe, in December.
Yeah.
So tell me how that made you feel.
Actually,
as
November.
November.
And thanks for asking that question, because Thanksgiving dinner turned into Thanksgiving dinner, an engagement party. It also turned into a gender reveal, and it turned into one more thing. Oh, and it turned into a going away party because he was coming here the next day.
Wow.
So Thanksgiving Day, I guess was earmarked for 4 events in one house.
Unbelievable.
And to my earlier point about unpacking and getting comfortable, that's only a place that we were in for roughly a year. And it was kind of, bittersweet because I loved Phoenix a lot.
Yeah.
The people were nice.
Me too.
Yeah, very nice. Kind of reminded me of Houston.
Scottsdale too.
Yes,
Great place, great
very
food.
nice. And it was kind of bittersweet, but and so is the life. So I think just getting used to certain things about certain places are kind of difficult, not knowing if you're going to be there long term.
Right.
That trickles into my personal life sometimes because it's kind of hard to be, committed
Right.
to situations, not knowing what tomorrow will hold. And I think just putting everything in proper perspective and just not being selfish to go out there and open up doors that I might have to close shortly, is testament to where I am as an individual at this point in my life because I'm in more of a supportive role for him.
Right.
Because we've weathered this storm and we've come through the gauntlet together. And now he can appreciate love for what it really is.
Definitely.
And that means a lot to me as a dad.
You talk about trusted advisors, and we'll get into all of that because
Yes,
I want
sir.
the real definitions.
Always.
But
Always real.
because this is beyond the buckets, I got to ask you, how long did it take for you to realize she was a trusted advisor? I know for me personally, Doug, you can attest to this. My mom don't play like she, and I would never bring, young ladies around. I think Maddie my wife was the first one that I really brought around because I just knew if I bring her around my mom and grandma, like she's gonna get the business and she better be able to keep up. So I would keep, my lady friends at bay until I knew. And I think she was the first one that I brought, and I felt really comfortable because, I could just be who I was. Ironically, we went to the same high school, but just not at the same time. I was 4 years older than her. Okay. But I finally brought her around, and my mom knew from the first time. Like, they really connected and they vibe. Same thing with my grandma. My grandma's 90 years old. She be talking that talk. Still to this day, she lives by herself. Just an amazing lady. But once they gave me the approval, I felt really good and confident that, man, I found the right person for me. And so what was that like for you, allowing somebody in to his life, especially because of, the lifestyle and, being an NBA player is just a lot different than most people would, come into contact with, and you don't know what some people's motives are and stuff like that. So tell me about that.
Well, I have this Machiavellian principle about me where I just study styles. And that trickles down to him too. I gauge his reactions to things.
Right.
And I can tell when he's serious or not, or if it's just something that he's not really worried about because he won't be around long.
Right.
So just by his talk track, something was a little different. But I had to make sure it was not different because it was new. It was different because there was some substance behind it. So he asked me what I thought. I said, well, give it some time. But I wanted to get her in a one-on-one setting, just to ask her certain things about her upbringing,
right,
her position, currently where she was with regards to things like school and family. And as we talked in the kitchen one day over dinner, her and I, we kind of came to an understanding that we were both here for Kelly's betterment. Yeah. And once I got that feel from her that she wasn't a bopper, she wasn't looking for the camera.
Right.
That was definitely 2 checked boxes that I needed to make sure of before I was totally bought into the fact that she was on the road to be a keeper.
Right.
Now, with that being said, she didn't have a bitterness about her, about the past. She didn't have underlying issues that were consuming her about her family structures. And she was always willing to voice her opinion and speak her own mind, which was great for me to see, because far too many times, as the younger generation does, they rely too much on others or their friends to formulate their opinions. And a lot of times it's to their detriment, at a later date when they look back on it, because, damn, I let that one get away. And why did they get away? Because I was listening to somebody else who may have not had my best interest in mind. So once we crossed those few hurdles, and he really just started talking to me more about it, and he wanted to include her in my conversations with him also.
Right.
Which is interesting because I've always been a proponent of 3-dimensional thought.
Yep.
And talking to him in 3-dimensional terms, whether he was listening or not, I knew at some point it would resonate when he would slow down a little bit and be forced to see things for what they were and not what he wanted them to be.
Right.
And she kind of tied right into that scenario because she was there listening also, albeit from a female perspective.
Wow.
And albeit not understanding, my talking points sometimes, but I extended the same thing to her that I extended to him. And I always tell him, as I was developing my Beast Develop model, and he was a centerpiece of it, I will clarify 1,000 times, but I will never justify once because I don't have to.
And that's your justifiers versus clarifiers.
Exactly, because a clarifier is one who's normally been there, weathering the storm with a young diamond or athlete or person. Whereas that's a clarifier. Whereas a justifier probably just showed up and has a motive behind their appearance. For some instant gratification or some quick turnaround or quick gratification. By their own doing, or they were sent by someone to get close to and around the clarifier.
Well, I'm going to cut you off right there because I'm a firm believer in people come into your life for 4 different reasons. To add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And that's very similar to your Machiavellian principles, right? And, I want people that are going to add or multiply to my life. I don't need you in my life, and you don't need me in your life. But if we can add to each other's life or multiply it, that's where you have a win-win situation. It's a two-way road. Every relationship, in my opinion, should be a two-way. I can't be dependent on you the entire time. And, when you ask for something from me, if you ever need it, and now it's like, no, I can't do it. If you told me to pull up to San Francisco, come up here, bring everybody, okay, well, I got you because you already reciprocated. I got to reciprocate what you've already done at the very minimum. So I think that's a very important point for people to understand that are listening to this. It's, and you talk about, basically keeping these situations from happening. Do you want to expand upon that? Like, not having to owe people. I forget the exact term.
Well, not being beholden or not being in a system of indentured servitude.
There you go.
Therefore, had I listened to outside noise as Kelly was growing up, that didn't think I knew exactly what I was raising, then I might be or might have been more susceptible to, I guess, compromising myself and him along the way. Instant gratification never was my thing because I always tell this story. Well, I'm sorry, I make this analogy and it's so rudimentary and so basic from my upbringing. It's funny because early on I realized that if I had a pound of lunch meat and a loaf of bread, a couple of cans of soup, I'm good for the week. Whereas I didn't need the flashy. I wasn't in search of the things that I knew couldn't sustain my life. They would just be additions to it in a more upscale way. That never was my thing. That's why it's harder for me to appreciate a big house now. It's just a house. It's just 4 walls. I have a very nice car outside. It's just a car. It just happens to look the way I've always wanted my car to look now. So I'm like, but if I get a flat tire, I'm gonna still be on the phone trying to figure it out. It's just a car. So just looking at it from that 3-dimensional standpoint and understanding that my actions have been watched ever since Kelly was born. And I've always wanted to make those actions consistent because having been married a few times, he was able to see some of the good and some of the bad, but at the same time still pull enough good out of those situations to still want to give love a shot. And with Shy, it's a good situation because I sleep a little better at night too. Whereas coming up through the ranks with him, it was almost like I had to hold my breath for a very long time because I never knew what was around the corner. I'm not big on surprises. But I consider myself ready for whatever because I have to be. And it's interesting to look at it now and watch him apply certain things or slow down long enough to hear what I'm saying now and not just, oh, yeah. Because what happens now is a lot of his friends are telling him exactly who I am and the part that I played in his life, whereas he was just used to it all the time. His surroundings are dictating to him exactly my importance in doing all the heavy lifting for so long.
Right.
and just giving him the freedom to just go out there and just have fun,
Right.
even though it was just me and him. And understanding that more helps him as he's awaiting a child. And in a way, I can only thank God for that because who knew?
Right. Well, the thing about that is, and while you were talking, I refer back to my relationship with my mother. My father wasn't there. I mean, he was there for the first 8 years of my life, and then they split up. And intermittently, I've seen him. He still hasn't seen his grandkids to this day, which is. And he's still alive, but we just, I don't have any animus in my heart towards him, man, because my mom always painted him in a good light. She always said that, your dad loves you, regardless of whatever it is. He just can't be here for you at this point. And, as I got older, I started to figure out everything my mom was telling me, and she would allow me, similar to you would allow him to make his own decisions. But she would try to guide me in the right way. And then if I kind of went off track, that's on me, but she's going to be there to help me get back up. Right. But I look back on it, everything she told me was 100% correct. Like, I mean, she went undefeated as far as that is concerned. She saw what I couldn't see. Even if I wanted to do this or hang out with these individuals that weren't doing much, I ended up seeing later that, my mom had my best interest from day one, and she always has and always will, where these other people may not have had that. And to our earlier talk, why are these people coming in your life? Well, they were trying to, gain something because of the relationship that they had with me. I've always been motivated, but I seen my mom. She used to be at the flea market right up the street on Capitol. Every Saturday morning, I would go play with the other kids that were there while she was making money, and then she would go buy me something. Go get you whatever you want. I didn't know, but she was teaching me how to hustle. She got my first job at I was a tour guide for the Winchester Mystery House. I was 16 years old. Wow. I was giving tours to little infants all the way to people that are in their 80s or 90s. I had to learn how to talk to people, and based on the information that I've learned about you and his relationship, you were setting up 3 moves down the road for his future. Right. When you put him out to Finley, you had already seen the writing on the wall when it came to what was going on in the state of Texas. Could he be an All-American there? Could he make the McDonald's game? Well, you saw the year before that what happened and how many people made it. Well, you kind of looked at it and said, well, I'm going to take him to Nevada and, play for a prep school. But guess what? He's about to be he's already preparing for Kansas.
Exactly.
So I just think that's really interesting and just hearing the parents' perspective on it all.
Well, this goes back to when he got his black belt in Taekwondo. He didn't realize what I was doing. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. But I was studying what they call the Agogi Principle. And far too many times, as grown-ups even now, we don't convey to our kids how important history really is and how civilizations that came before us did all this before.
Right.
We're not the first ones to invent the wheel. Right. The wheel has been here for thousands and thousands of years. So, and it's been beneficial for thousands and thousands of years. That's why it's never resorted to being a square block. It's always been round. So, I mean, if you can pull off a square wheel, let me know.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to try.
Well, I think they tried in the prehistoric days, but it didn't really work. You see those little cartoons, you know what I mean?
It ain't working. So, I think that just, but that was very poignant, that black belt in Taekwondo segueing into basketball because it's what he wanted to do, not what I forced him to do.
Yeah.
And the, I guess, hardships for him from Katrina was easy to help him navigate or be prepared for whatever was about to come based on the accomplishment that he already had established with gaining that black belt.
Right.
Because I would always use that as a foundational piece to refer back to because he wanted to quit.
Right.
Going into his black belt. And I said, well, look, I'll make a deal with you. Get to your black belt and you don't have to get any more of the degrees. And he says, okay. I said, and at that point, you can play whatever sports you want to do, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And I asked him after once he did it, he says, I want to play basketball. I said, okay, because we had been dabbling in basketball. When he was a baby, he used to come and watch me play in rec leagues.
Right.
He was always run on the court, want to play, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I used to always have him basically, I use the analogy, always having him in my pocket. Mm-hmm. He was always with me. I had custody of him since he was 3 years old, and no shot at his mom. It wasn't a problem there. We just agreed that it would be best that I take him because he was going to grow into a young man. Mm-hmm. And, she really didn't fight me very much on it because she understood it was the right thing to do, and that was big of her because she had a daughter at the time also, previously when we met. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I kind of helped her understand what was best for Kelly and what I was willing to do. And that was whatever it took, monetarily, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it took. He would always be there for her and she there for him. Open door policy, and it came down to once in Houston where I invited her to come in. I mean, look, take my bed. I'll sleep on the couch. FaceTime. Y'all do what y'all got to do. I'm good. Just the door was always open there. So kudos to her. Sometimes she gives me a hard time. I think because she just wants to give me a hard time. But in the end, she's smiling too because of the successes he's become and the things he's brought to his circumstance and his family in a positive way, outside of the monetary inducement. He bought her a house, but I wanted him to buy her a house. Take care of your mom. When you get your second deal, just do that for me, and we're good. So he did that, and that meant, because I knew it would mean a lot to him. Mm-hmm. To give her something that she never had before, a peace of mind or a sense of ownership. In something that was probably something she could never afford. Right. And that means
is she still in Louisiana?
She is in Louisiana. Yes, she is. And it's a beautiful situation because he's growing into his manhood. Right. And that means a lot to me. And I think a lot of that is predicated on how he grew up and the things he can refer back to as successes.
Right. We talked a lot. We haven't even really got into what I wanted to talk to yet, but we're just flowing pretty well. Tell me about your upbringing first and foremost. I mean, a lot of people that interview you talk about him and how your dynamics raising him by yourself. Mm-hmm. But what was it like for you growing up?
Like I said, spent 3 years outside of New Orleans in Birmingham, Alabama. The first year was 3rd or 4th grade. Went to Rocky Ridge Elementary in Birmingham. My mom was working at the South Central Bell telephone company there. And I left New Orleans and I just wanted to see something different. Since she was there, I went. That was that was a fun year, let me say, in the 3rd, 4th grade, because it was something I wasn't used to in the inner city of New Orleans. And I had a good childhood. I love both of my parents. They're still alive. They live in New Orleans. And went back to New Orleans after that year. And managed to, work my way through middle school, high school, except for the 9th and 10th grade in which I went back to Alabama. Went to John Carroll High School, private high school. So up until that point, except for that 1 year of 3rd, 4th grade, I had gone to basically all inner city schools. Holy Ghost was a private school I went to in New Orleans during my middle school years, but it was somewhat inner city because of where it was. And we had a bunch of pretty good nuns there who really were strict.
Yeah.
And they didn't
kept you in line a little bit.
They didn't mind getting the paddle out every once in a while.
Right.
So it kind of, taught some structure and discipline right in my own community. And it was kind of like an anomaly for New Orleans to have a private, a Catholic school right there with that church right around the corner, but surrounded by the Garden District, the Magnolia Project, Callio Project, and the urban element all around, which was good because all my friends were from the area. Nobody was bussed in. Nobody was brought from across town. We were all from the area. And something very poignant happened. We were playing on the yard one day. And this was something that kind of gave me the okay that it was all right to be different. And it's a funny story, and it's one of those stories. Uh-huh. We were playing on the yard, and we were by the gate. There was a street right outside the gate. there was a cross, it was a street running I guess to the right of the school, further about halfway down the block, and another street here. So we were kind of by the gate. So we heard sirens. So we ran to the gate, looking down the street. So 4 guys turned the corner running, and we still heard the sirens. They were running as fast as they could. So we turned, we looked, and one guy stopped. He turned around and just started walking. So by the time that happened, the police car had just turned the corner. And he walked right past them. And the other 3 got caught.
Wow.
So in that moment, I realized, you know what? Sometimes you just got to be different with it. Not saying, I don't know what they did. It wasn't my business. We were just on the yard having fun, playing whatever we were playing, kickball or something. But in that moment, it kind of resonated with me that, you know what, sometimes you just got to be a little different.
And what in particular was going to be different with you?
How I was going to look at the world, not just New Orleans, not just the nation, but the world and people. And I'm a thinker.
Yeah,
I was quiet.
I get that for sure.
I was very quiet. You know, Holy Ghost was like our little world in the inner city, because it kind of forced us to delve into oratorical declamation. You know, it would take us to Xavier University to have speaking tournaments, and a lot of us were shy because we didn't have resources. I mean, holding our shoes sometimes, 2 pair of khaki pants, 3 shirts.
Right.
That was your suit for the year. So, you know, don't get crazy.
It's amazing what some nice threads do to you.
Right.
You know? Back to primetime's favorite thing: look good, feel good, play good, and they pay good.
Right. So that's what it did for me. It forced me to look at the world a little differently, because you know what? I can communicate.
Right.
And it took a hit when I went to high school in Alabama at a private high school. And I was quiet once again because I was out of my element. But I had an English teacher named Miss Bohorfish. We called her Miss B. Miss B, you know, she pulled me aside one day. She said, you know, Kelly, just paint a picture with your words. You know, when you're speaking, just paint a picture with your words. And that, coupled with what I already had inside, kind of gave me the push that I needed, that we spoke about, the push that we have to give our kids sometimes. And just to see the world not only as, I guess, my oyster, but at the same time, something that I could conquer or work towards conquering, because it was round and not flat in my mind.
Well,
so
not like Kyrie's.
Well, I mean, you know what? You gotta give Kyrie his
No, you
flowers.
do. You definitely do.
Hey, he pushes the needle, pushes the envelope.
For sure.
So, but that's a little bit about my earlier upbringing. Kind of uneventful, but just I was in the moment a lot, and I was happily in the moment a lot, because I always knew that New Orleans couldn't hold me. Because if that's what I had seen it all already.
Yeah.
I lived in various places throughout New Orleans, but I was like, you know what? I do know, by me going into 3rd grade and going back 9th, 10th grade, the world is round and not flat.
Right.
Therefore, something is out there. You know, if I, expand my horizons far and wide, you know, with my 3-dimensional approach, I can appreciate others in their natural elements also. Because, you know, New Orleans, you know, is an entertainment town.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of the successes are predicated upon things like gambling,
sure,
tourism. A lot of the successes of New Orleans are predicated on the fact that tourism is driven by the fact that you can drink alcohol 24 hours a day and walk down the street with the glass in your hand.
Right.
Or the cup, I'm sorry. So if that's our calling card, we in trouble.
Definitely.
You know, because the rest of the world is round, not flat.
Yeah.
And alcohol is some of these dry counties we're talking about, or alcohol doesn't even matter in a lot of these places.
Right.
And it's damn sure not going to be a driving force behind success and failure in communities, whether they be upscale or lower scale, you know, for a large part. Everybody has a hood, but when you're allowed to walk down the street with alcohol 24 hours a day with no consequence,
right,
that makes your hood a little more hood.
Right.
Definitely. You know, so, you know, it's nice for the weekend, if you want to go down there and party, but I always just tell people, Monday morning we'll be here.
Yeah.
And it takes me, into Kelly's upbringing too.
And did you play? Were you athletic when you were growing up? Did you play?
I was very athletic. That stopped once I got out of high school because, quite frankly, it was funny because my sister had gone to Howard University 2 years earlier, and I guess she kind of dried up the Pell Grant money. So I had a decision to make. I chased this dream, and go to. I think my option was a junior college in Dubuque, Iowa. And of course, I saw the pictures and I saw the snow.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Or I went to the University of New Orleans, and I didn't have the money for my initial enrollment tuition. So ironically, a teacher of mine, Mr. Louis Rodrigue at Walter L. Cohen High School, he had gone from high school that year in 1987 and gotten a job at University of New Orleans. So he was on the staff there as a counselor. So I was talking to him one day, and it was at orientation, and fees weren't due yet because it was all in that same little 3-day or week window. You had to pay your fees. Go to the university center, get in line, do the whole spiel. So I was talking to him one day, but I was working at the time. I had two jobs.
Yeah.
2 part-time jobs coming out of high school. So I said, I'm happy to be here, yada yada. But Mr. Rodriguez, I don't know if I can do this for another week because I don't have the money, but I do get paid in 2 weeks. He says, Kelly, let me just give you your first, tuition, reimburse, or the first, the first monetary inducement of your tuition. I said, okay, I'll pay you back in 2 weeks. I paid him back, and that was it. Now, that was like boxing also because I was all right. I'm in college now. Okay, I'm not acclimated to these things because I don't see anybody that I know from my high school. And I don't think anybody from Cohen went to UNO. So it was hard because a lot of these neighboring schools around the city, everybody there with their Letterman jackets on, 2 and 3 and 4 deep. They know each other. They know what spring break is. I don't know what that is.
Right.
They're hanging out in the UC. You got the Greeks doing their thing. I'm like, this is all foreign to me because I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't party.
Right.
I'm more of a thinker, and I'm kind of like an athletic nerd. So, throw that all into the gumbo pot, like I say, with my own personal situation. And I think I wound up hanging for about a year and a half, and I wound up going down the street to Southern University of New Orleans, which is not too far away from UNO, right down the street, actually. And I kind of hung out there for about a year. So I think technically I was a junior.
Yep.
By the time I stopped going all together and just got a job. Said, screw, I can't do this. So what I did was I started working. I got on at UPS, and which was a blessing at the time because it was part-time.
Right.
Was able to, while I was working part-time there, got on at W.W. Granger, an Industrial Equipment Corporation. And before I knew it, I was working for 2 Fortune 500 companies and didn't even realize it.
And before you go on, because it'll get into Kelly's childhood, why do so many successful people? Well, not so many, but there's a few successful people that come out of New Orleans, and when they come out, they do a really fantastic job. We talked about that right before we jumped on, but a Master P, a J Electronica, I think Louis Armstrong was somewhere in that area as well. Rappers and entertainers, like you said, it's an entertainment hub. How have they been able to get beyond everything that is that area and thrive? And in a similar lane, you did kind of the same thing, because when you saw that guy run around, something in your head clicked and it was like, this ain't it. Like, right. I gotta figure something else out, and it'll transition later on to a pain point, which is Katrina. And it's going to end up being a positive thing in the long run. But talk to me first about the successful people that come out of the area, and then how it translated into you getting these jobs, and then obviously Kelly coming, and then where you kind of went from there.
Okay, I played baseball with Baby and Cash Money.
Really?
his grandmother sponsored our baseball team at A.L. Davis Park, formerly Shakespeare Park.
And were him and Slim?
Well, Slim was
did they
older
come
than
later?
No, Slim was older than that.
Okay.
It was Brian, who's baby,
Right.
and Eldrick, his little brother. I think his little brother was maybe a year or two under him. But his little brother had gotten killed. I think they got caught up in doing whatever they were doing.
Right.
But, it was me, Brian, and Eldrick, and all of our other friends who would just gravitate to the park every day. We'd play whatever sport was in season. That was our safe haven. And ironically, the spot, our jerseys had Gladys Bar on it. That was Miss Gladys. He refers to her in a couple of songs. And she sponsored our baseball team. Now, keep in mind, even at an early age, you see signs in people that, this is gritty, this is grimy, this is almost not childlike. We were always on that fringe. And that little cluster we were in was, like you mentioned, Magnolia Housing Project or CJ Pete. The Calliope was not too far away. That's where Master P was.
Right.
So here I am with those two moguls. Tyler Perry, I went to high school with at Walter L. Cohen. We had a typing class together. So I don't even consider myself, in superstar status. I'm just a guy figuring that out on my own. But happening to be in the midst of a lot of professionals, in the making. Let me just say that, because everybody was just grinding.
And that's where the beauty is right there. Yeah. Seeing that process. That's what I like. And I can tell that you like that as well.
And I'll have it no other way. And I'm going to tell you why, because I am, when I got to Houston, it resonated because I was in the midst of millionaires and oil men, and I felt totally comfortable.
Right.
Because the people around them that had grown, I guess, in that arena with them, were beholden to them.
Right.
Because their money mattered.
And I know
came from nothing. Yeah. Your money matters not to me. Mm-hmm. Let's take all your money off the table and now we're equal. Yeah. We're even. And you have to look at me if you choose to, or you have to look at me at a later date thinking that you should have. And it's interesting.
Say that again.
Yeah, because they're forced to look at you because if they feel they have to, or later on, because they think because they realize they should have, and
I might take that from you.
Yeah, I mean, you can have it. Ever since I give a lot of information.
The first time I'm gonna make sure I give you credit, but then after that, it's fine.
No, take it, coin it, do whatever you want, make some shirts, whatever do whatever you got to do. So I'll never that will never leave me. That because I break everything down to the essence, the core. Let's just take all the money off the table.
Right.
We're there. We're in the midst of the situation right there. Okay. And, looking at it from a Houston perspective, the have-nots in New Orleans, the haves in Houston.
Right.
Get there. Kelly's growing up. People are asking me questions, thinking I don't know the answers to them. Like I don't know exactly what I have here.
Let me ask you this. When did you know that his destiny was to play basketball? I'm in a similar situation where it's like, I got a young son. He's 3 years old. He sees me at the gym. I bring him everywhere. Like he's in my pocket too. We had basketball tryouts this past weekend, and there's hundreds of kids, and he's just sitting there. No, Mama, I want to watch this. And he comes up to me when I'm addressing the group. It just makes me feel so good that I'm able to bring him around that. But I don't want to force him to do anything. But I do know you do need a little nudge as far as if you're going to do this. And one of my favorite books is called The Talent Code. And it studies all of individuals who are extremely talented. They're ignited at an early age. And if you get that ignition with the right environment and then the right, teaching or coaching, then you can just really thrive. It talks about Tiger. I don't know if you watched the Tiger Woods documentary at all, but I mean, Earl made Tiger who he was. I mean, he was going to play golf. 100% without a doubt. And you can tell that he was ignited as a young kid. But then there was also some of this sadness that I seen in Tiger's eyes, sometimes and, it would just be one of those things, well, yeah, my dad makes me come out here to the range every day and we're out here for 3 hours. It's like, damn, do I want to do that? I don't know if me personally, I don't want to. I want him to be the one that wanted to do it. But if you're going to do it, let's get it going, right? So I'm really interested to see, your answer to this, because I'm just, I wouldn't say I'm lost, but I'm just searching to see what is the best for, my particular situation.
Well, I mean, it harkens back to that Agogi code. Okay, as I looked at it, I says, okay, now with regards to Taekwondo, I want him to get punched in the mouth. I want him to taste blood, all right? And this gets a little emotional sometimes. So when you go there, you got to rip the Band-Aid off. Mm-hmm. If I'm talking to you man to man, father to father, you ask me a question, I got to give you the real answer. Because we clean hands, all right? Always. So, because I knew growing up, I didn't have that. I didn't have somebody. Everything was, oh, it'll be fine. Or just do what you want to do. But I knew that didn't get me to where I was in my mind. What got me to where I was in my mind as now a young father was the guys you brought up earlier. Seeing them hungry every day, doing things, segueing into I'm just going to put it out there, this is a gradual progression in the community. You're either a rapper, you're a drug dealer, you're a barber, and after that, you're probably a daddy looking back on your life wondering what happened. Or, because a lot of my friends now wonder how me and Kelly were so tight. Well, technically, I only have one son, whereas a lot of my friends had babies in high school. So, to your point as a father, I knew something was special about Kelly because, subconsciously, I guess, he had no choice but to let me work. He had to go along with my program, but I had to be gentle enough to position it in a way where he was benefiting also without knowing that he was actually working for his future.
Right.
So that's the thing. That's the fine line you got to walk as a daddy. You got to position it in a way where they're having fun. Eventually, from fun, they're dominating their class. And the way they do that is they play at upper levels. You can't pigeonhole them to only keep them in one sport while they're in middle school. Let them play whatever they want.
Right.
If they get one-itis in high school, that's perfect. But in middle school, as they grow, the swimming, the soccer, everything you guys have afforded to you out here,
right,
is a beautiful thing. It reminds me of Texas a lot. And understanding that everything you do is being watched. Every word you use, how you deal with grown men is being watched by your son. Mm. And I realized that with Kelly. Therefore, I couldn't rule with the iron hand because he wouldn't understand how to apply that in his current situations. I also couldn't pacify him by saying it's always the coach's fault either. I never did the you the man speech on the way to the game and on the way home. We talk situational basketball.
Right. And I want to save the coach's stuff for the end.
Oh, most definitely.
As a basketball coach, yeah, it's him, and you mentioned this in one of your previous podcasts. Mm-hmm. Coach just wants to win.
He wants to win. So
that's it. So he's going to play, or she is going to play the players that give them the best chance to win. Exactly. It's really, I don't know too many coaches, unless maybe you coach your kids, where it's like the little league dad, I'm going to let my kid bat third and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But, when you get to high school and college, the coach they're not really tripping off of who's getting the job done. They just want the person that's getting the job done. But continue your story.
And a lot of times as parents, our biggest problem is we compare and contrast our kids to other kids. Two things. We compare and contrast our kids to other kids, and we always, for some strange reason, think we have time. We'll do it later. And once that kid picks up on that, okay, oh, this is how I'm supposed to deal with this situation. I see him over there. I'm supposed to be better than him. But the first ones to know that they're not as good as him is the kid.
Right.
They realize that. And all bets are off in ninth grade. Your daddy can coach you up to the 8th grade, the last day before you go into freshman orientation. Ninth grade, everything changes because all of a sudden you got a new coach.
Right.
You're meeting the kid from around the corner who can drop 50 on you like that you never met because you never paid attention to him. Because a lot of times, a lot of these kids have been either playing for their daddies on these manicured summer ball circuits, being pacified with participation trophies. I mean, second place trophies, Kelly just like, nah, I'm good, Dad.
When did you know that Kelly had talent? Because if he didn't have no talent,
to your point, I knew because it was a maturation. It wasn't just voila, he has talent. It was a maturation from Taekwondo black belt, Houston, Texas, coming to us, Lifetime Fitness, playing, watching us play, getting in the games, he being cute, gradually growing, training against pros kids because pros retired to Texas for the tax benefits.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, keep in mind, these are all people that he's interacting with every day. The pros themselves, their kids, and in these situations where these kids are going into these 23 Division I colleges in Texas alone. You know, a lot of these kids didn't make it out of those 23 Division I colleges or the colleges of their choice because they were already earmarked for success.
Right.
Guaranteed pro, guaranteed one and done. Nothing in life is guaranteed. All you can do is put the work in, and when your shot, to perform is there or the stage is there, which is all I've ever wanted for Kelly. Every coach I've ever talked to. Just need a stage. I'll get him ready. Just looking for the stage. And every stage from Biddy ball in New Orleans, summer ball in New Orleans, summer ball in Houston, middle school, high school, Finlay, college, to the pros. I don't want your money. I don't want your trinkets and your gifts. All I need is that stage.
Right.
And for them to know that you'll help them be ready for that stage to perform with realistic expectations, I think that's a service we can do to our kids as fathers, both boys and girls, to let them know, if this is what you want to do, I'm in full support of you. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it's going to be, so get used to it. I'll be here, and I'm never going to throw the dollar amount of how much it costs for these trips and tournaments in your face.
Right.
Now, when you say, when did I know? Probably that 8th to 9th grade summer. Mm-hmm. It was very...
How tall was he then?
He was 5'6". He had gone to, in a year and a half, probably between 6th grade and 8th grade, Kelly had gone from 5'6" to 6'5". So that, along with being a lefty, that along with having traveled to the Maryland Invitational Tournament, maybe 4 times in Maryland from Texas, LeBron King James Classic in Akron, Ohio, a couple of times, invited to various camps, rigorous summer ball training. Every other weekend he's out of town. I'm trying to justify why I got to pick him up early every other Friday at his private middle school. They don't understand that. But I understand that I gotta walk the fine line between education and his passion.
Yeah.
And I can't take his passion away for education. I know it sounds selfish, and that might not sound like what every other parent wants to hear, because I know in China that kids stay in class or in school sometimes 7 days a week.
Right.
But if that wasn't our motto or our blueprint, then you can't ding me for that, because if you're gonna ding me for that, I mean, if you see the dollar amounts attached to some of these contracts, I guess you're gonna ding me for that too. It's almost like that Joe Jackson, Tiger Woods, Richard Williams, Andre Agassi's daddy syndrome. I mean, are they such bad people on the back end because they were being persecuted on the front end, or vice versa? That is a fine line we walk as daddies with our kids. We got to find that sweet spot.
But you don't take me as that type of dad.
Because I was three-dimensional enough to realize that I could not become Jurassic in the process. Mm-hmm. I couldn't be compromised in the process. I couldn't let my son see me lose in the process.
I want to touch on the compromising.
Okay.
He was an elite basketball player.
Yes.
Top, 10 or 11.
56-6.
He was 11 in the class of 15, I believe.
Well, let me tell you the 56-6 story because I brought 2 dry erase boards from Kroger for his chores at the house. I put the chores on there, yada, yada, clean the bathroom, fix the bed, yada, yada, yada. At the bottom of the board was facing the living room, outside his door. So I was working 3 jobs, teaching. I was a teacher's aide. I was working security at night. I just was basically in and out to cook, to make sure he was good, and he just had to take care of his room and stuff. He put 56 on the bottom of it, okay, because he noticed that's when he hit Rivals.com, Rivals Top 150. Rivals Top 150 or 200, whatever it was. He started 56. All right, I don't know what that means, but I'll leave it there. Then a couple of months later, he crossed it out and he put 43. A couple of months later, he crossed that out and put 30-something. Crossed that out. And I realized what he was doing probably right around that 30 range. I said, oh, I know what you're doing. Because they were paying attention to the internet. He knew what was going on around the country because by going to all these tournaments and these venues and spaces,
right,
he was running into the guys he's playing within the league right now.
Yeah.
That was the hot dudes in other places.
And knocking them off.
So I'm like, okay, so this is what he's doing. So subconsciously and consciously, he's in Texas where all these anointed guaranteed pros are. Mm-hmm. People like Aaron are coming to Texas to play people in Texas.
Yep.
He's seeing what they call the best of the best. He took out those 2 that Aaron played. They were twins. He took them out in high school. So by the time he got to 2014, his class.
And they were 1 and 2 at that year, right?
Exactly. And it's funny, by the time he got to his 2014 year, or 2013, going into 2014, I had a decision to make. Yeah, Dad, I can drop 50 a night. I said, yeah, you can, but you won't. I'm taking you out of Texas because the McDonald's All-American conversation came up about whether they could take 5 more that year, like they took 5 the previous year with the twins and these other guys.
Right.
Julius Randle, Matt Jones, the twins, somebody else out of somewhere in Texas. They didn't know, and the odd man out because I didn't technically play the game along the way. I did it my own way and was uncompromised. Mm-hmm. The odd man out was probably going to be the little kid that wasn't from here to begin with.
Gotcha.
So I had to make it easy for everybody, myself and Kelly included, to make him the number 1 kid in Nevada.
What was being thrown at you guys during that AAU time? I mean, I know I run a club for the last 11 years, and at the time we didn't have any shoe deals. We just got with Under Armour, with West Coast Elite. But what's been thrown out? Being on the Nike EYBL circuit, stuff like that. All the Adidas teams probably want them. Mm-hmm. The Under Armour teams probably want them. Nike obviously wanted them. Like, what were you not allowing them to compromise you with?
In a roundabout way, I would say money. Roundabout, because I never was that guy. Mm-hmm. So. And no one ever had intel on me because I was always orchestrating from behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I would strategically put Kelly in positions. We would do things like they'd have a tournament in town in Houston, and his team would play at 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I'd hang around until 12. I'd go to the coach on either one of those teams at 12. I said, hey, can he run with y'all? He didn't know. And at first, he didn't know what I was doing. But we're talking 6th, 7th, 8th grade now. Mm-hmm. Can he run with y'all? And they already knew who he was. Coaches, a couple of coaches, befriended him because I was always cool with the coach.
Right.
Yeah, let him run. He didn't interrupt team chemistry or anything.
Was this older groups?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let him run. But that was always the carrot I had over Houston because what I did was I played Houston against New Orleans and New Orleans against Houston. Because like I told you when we were off mic, one thing about the Houston kid is he has everything, an abundance of riches. One thing about the New Orleans kid, he has basically nothing. So he's hungry, and he's I guess I don't use the F word. He's He's chubby.
I mean, you can if you want.
No, I don't because I don't want. It's more of a shot at the parent and not the child when I say that, and that's always been my premise because I don't fault kids for being kids. I want them to be kids. The circumstances that they come up in is the byproduct of the parents' hard work.
Right.
So let me just say that.
Yeah.
Haves and the have-nots are a better analogy. Sure. Okay, for various reasons. So knowing that, I would always have that as my ace in the hole with Houston if anybody ever got squirrely about trying to lay claim to him. Oh, it's simple. I'll just take him back to New Orleans. Whoa. Or we're not gonna be in town this weekend. Big tournament. Yeah, we're going. Kelly wants to go back home to see his mom. Oh, okay. And by the way, while he's down there, he's gonna play with his New Orleans team he left before Katrina. Oh, see that kind of changed the game for us. Just that leverage. See, because at that point, I took the money off the table. I don't want that. That's trash to me. Your money's trash. I mean, all money's trash to me. I don't need that.
Right. They wanted him to play for free and all that.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that is, if I give you something, you owe me something in return. If I don't take it, I owe you nothing.
Right.
So being in that space and maintaining that as the way I did business kind of made me some enemies along the way because everybody else was compromised. Why don't you just go along with the program? Right. But no, it just wasn't my thing. Therefore, I never led with an ask.
Well,
other than
there goes you going off the beaten path.
There you go.
Back to the original story.
Exactly. So it's a maturation, not only of him, but of me also. Because, I guess if you have the product, you're in control.
Right.
I have what you need. You need the talent. You want to lay claim to this or help him be a part to help you win. But the flip side to that is anything that he gets from this organization will be paid for with his sweat equity.
So you were the governing body.
Oh, always. And that's what I want to tell all my parents or trusted advisors or clarify.
What about now where the league seems to control most of the stuff? Obviously, the player empowerment era is live and well, but it's only probably for a 2% type of deal where we talked about it early on, not, wanting to get rid of these boxes. Now it doesn't seem like it's all in your control. How are you able to maneuver these situations with less control of actually what happens? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. That's where the mental aspect comes in with Beast Developmental. Okay. We all have an employer. We all have someone to answer to. And let's just put that out there. If we're an independent contractor, we have to answer to our customers, that type of thing. So we're never someone who doesn't need anybody else to further our successes. So with that being said, the mental aspect kicks in now because no, I never was one trying to take the control from the governing body, even with the maturations. Like I said,
you could control it then.
Yeah. Well, put it this way. I could control it if I really wanted to strong arm it, but I was always the dad to go walk in the gym and find the first available seat. I'm not looking around to be a part of a clique or a group. No. Let me find a seat. Let me put my earbuds in and let me just watch the pure form of the game itself. I'm not here for everything. When it starts becoming about everything other than basketball, I normally just, find somewhere to go. Right?
Why don't you give a parent seminar and let these parents? I mean, I'm telling you, if you sat in the AAU game where you don't have any dog in the fight, you just sit there and listen. I mean, it's comedy. You will hear the most outlandish stuff.
You know the humbling part about that is if you run into those parents who just can't shut up. You invite them to, at these AAU tournaments, they always would prefer someone from each opposing team's parent to work the clock or the books.
Sure. Well, they don't do that in California.
Okay. Well, that's a Texas thing. Okay. Yeah, but because that's a humbling experience because in that moment, I always tell people you'll realize that the mistake you make on the clock will bring the ire of so many people for various reasons.
Right.
A lot of things will be in question: your manhood or your womanhood, your commitment to children, your sexual preference, I'm gonna see you outside.
And you just messed up.
You know what you did.
Yeah.
You meant to do that when you came. I've been watching you, and yeah. So that's the humbling. And for those parents, who really want to, push the envelope, who can't shut up, let them go get certified to become a referee.
Hello.
There you go. I mean, because I believe in information in real time.
Yeah.
You bring me a problem, I'm gonna try to help you fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, you got a troublesome parent. What you do is you take all the balls and slide them over there by them. This is what you can do. You can become a referee. You can become a coach yourself. Not on my team.
Yeah.
You can become a coach yourself. But what you can't do when you're around us is corrupt these children and corrupt the thought process that I'm trying to implement, because good coaches and bad coaches still deserve the respect of being a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows why people do what they do, but coaching is a commitment. And it's a commitment a lot of times that started for all the right reasons.
Right.
And if a coach who's getting paid to coach knows he's about to get fired, he may have what they call lost the locker room, or be willing to have checked out for whatever reason, because it's just not fun for him anymore.
Right.
A young man came to me, one of my young diamonds. He was in college. He was there 2 years already, undersized point guard. He said, "Mr. Kelly, I'm thinking about transferring." I said, "Okay. Why?" "Well, coach ain't feeling me, and I don't know what his plans are for me moving forward for the next 2 years if I stay." I said, "All right. Well, look at it this way. The last 2 point guards that came before you, both of them are in the pros now, and he didn't give them the ball until their junior year because he didn't trust them. You're going into your junior year and you're willing to walk away from actually having the ball in your hands to control more of the game than you've ever controlled before in 2 years, okay, to go somewhere else where you're brand new and you got to start all over again, to sit on somebody else's bench for the 2 years in which you could have been playing on this team that you're leaving." Okay. I says, "And furthermore, this is what I want you to do. Book an appointment with coach if he's one of those coaches that's always too busy. Book an appointment with him. Walk in his office and start looking around. Look for some family pictures. Don't talk about basketball. Start asking questions about those family pictures or those accolades on the wall. Get him talking so he can see you for being more than a basketball player. Because what you're doing is you're training his mind as he segues into next year to have more trust in you as a person, along with the trust he has already by default over the last 2 years as a basketball player. Because somebody's going to control that tempo of that ball for him. Now, whether it's going to be you or the guy he's recruiting over you, because he recruits over somebody every year, and it's probably going to be you because you're undersized, you still can at least get a degree out of this situation. Now, I said, what was your expectation when you entered this college, high-level D1? I wanted to be 2 and done. I says, well, I knew where that came from. That kind of came from the talks that he had with his daddy. Because his daddy was, always pushing the envelope about he's the best third grader in the world. And, I'm very cool with his dad, but I used to always tell his dad, let's be realistic about this, because you're setting up for failure or a misguidance on the back end here.
Right.
So he's overseas now playing. He has his degree. He's a young father. And, I'm here when he calls, but sometimes I have to lay down the framework of our initial conversations like they've always been in the past, that don't call me with the pity party, because we don't do that here.
Right.
If you want solutions to the issues or problems you're facing now, let's talk about your future and how it could look, in terms of benefiting your family, not just you anymore, because it's bigger than you now.
Like you said earlier, you want the information in real time,
Exactly.
and you want to speak facts. And if you're speaking facts, we can't worry about what happened previously. All you can do is worry about how you're going to react based on the circumstances.
Exactly.
And it's, I wish a lot more people would look at things that way, but we're not going to change what happened before. Okay. We have to make sure that now our mindset, and talk about the mentality, and we can actually talk about be developmental now, because that goes right into this whole thing, is figuring a way out of the situation that you're in and where you're going to go. And I know you do the same thing that I do. I like to reverse engineer things. Exactly. And we look at something that we look at a goal that we want to accomplish, right? Take, this for instance. Well, our kids don't have anywhere to practice. Everything's shut down. There's no gyms available. Well, that's why we created this in July. People said, well, why are you creating a basketball training facility in the middle of a pandemic? Why not? I'm zigging when everybody else is zagging. And that's the same thing that you've done with your company, where, Beast Developmental, why don't you kind of explain it to the listeners? And, the Young Diamonds, and which is the middle. I really like your logo too. It's really great. And you talk about, the governing body, the trusted advisors, and then the peers, which are underneath, and then Beast Developmental. But I don't want to explain it all.
No, it's okay.
You go
It's
ahead
okay.
and
You did a good
do
job.
your thing.
Oh, man. At Beast Developmental, I like to say that we don't run from it, we run to it. And what I mean by that is, okay, we know what the problems are.
Again, back to the guy running. He ran to it.
Yeah. He ran right to it. I'm like, okay, all right, okay. But it got him out of that situation in the moment. But it worked for him. It didn't work for them. So Beast Developmental, breakdown of the logo. Beast Developmental is on top, the word itself, which acts as a drone hovering over the logo and the words surrounding the logo. Okay, Beast Developmental is us. Proven throughout the years, can deliver information in real time, because I've seen a lot of these scenarios play out, both good and bad. I've seen a lot of compromised people along the way. I've seen a lot of guaranteed pros never get through college.
Right.
Okay, for various reasons. This is a bunch of various reasons now, not just one or two or three reasons that can be drilled down and pinpoint, because everybody has a different reason, a different story, because they come from a different angle.
We all do.
Exactly. And who knows, you could have had two former pro parents in the house and still didn't make it for whatever reason. There are reasons why those pain points need to be turned into PowerPoints. Okay, and that's what we are at Beast Developmental. Now, to the right of the logo is what I call my trusted advisors or my clarifiers. Normally, I would prefer someone with a biological connection.
Is a trusted advisor just a parent, or
No.
it could be a coach? It could be.
It could be a coach. It could be, but has to operate with clean hands.
Right.
Always.
No expectations.
No expectation. No compromise on the table. If you're walking into this with expectations, like there's going to be a payoff on the back end, you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time.
Right.
Because I never walked into this thinking that Kelly was going to be a millionaire one day. I just knew he was going to be a success one day. What is a success? It depends on who you ask, and it depends on how much work they're willing to do to become it.
That right there is a key important point.
That's the point that's fleeting.
We live in the we live in the Silicon Valley right now, right? We're hoping because I like Kelly's game. I hope him, 325 goes by quick and he's still here, because I like the vibe that he's brought to my hometown team, right? But you can be there's millionaires everywhere in this area, okay, and we don't know their name. We don't need to, because real G's move in silence a lot of the time, right? I don't need people to know my name. But to your point earlier, the biggest mistake we think is we have time. Kobe passing, who is a few years older than I am, was one of the reasons why I decided to do this podcast, is because that realization, we don't have enough time. So if I don't have enough time, well, now I've got 100 podcasts that my son can listen to if I'm no longer here. Or somebody might get something from this and say, man, I'm gonna live my life by that. I'm gonna stop and go to it, because we ain't running from it at all. I'm gonna change my perspective on the way I think because somebody listened to you speak on this. I think it's my duty, if I have a platform, to put it out there, to share more. I used to hold my ideas like this.
Exactly.
I got a lot of good ideas. I don't want to tell everybody this, especially as a basketball coach, and talking to other coaches, like, you don't want to share your good plays. Well, it don't matter. Every play has been done, and how many different horn sets can we run out of this, right? How many different flex type of options can we run off of this? But that's the reason why. Do you want to be a famous coach, or do you just want to? Do you want to coach?
Exactly.
I want to coach.
People
ask me, "Do you want to coach college?" No. I like what I'm doing. I can have a bigger impact overall by doing this. So that is an extremely important point. Do you want to be a millionaire, or do you want to be a famous millionaire? Do you want to be an actor or do you want to be a famous actor? I know some Broadway actors that can kill anybody that is out there in LA,
Right.
so continue.
Oh, and it goes back to what is the definition of success? I think that's internal. And, support systems are somewhat external.
Right.
And I think identifying that as a trusted advisor or a clarifier and being that and being happy being that is more gratifying than being somebody who is hanging on until the very end for that windfall or that payday.
Right.
Which probably will be fleeting or may not be the payday they expected. And at what point, will that person who was in it for all the wrong reasons decide to cut bait from a young athlete or diamond?
Right.
And prove themselves to be the charlatan they were the whole time, which turns them into a justifier.
Is everybody a diamond in your opinion?
You know what? They can be if they're willing to do the work to be. I mean, diamonds aren't just made diamonds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got to go. You either got to go
deep in the earth.
You got to go get them.
Get through that carbon, all that. Yeah.
You got to get through that to get to the diamonds.
Right.
Then voila! I knew he was gonna be a diamond the whole time. Well, did you really?
Right.
You never even brought him to practice, but you want him to play and make you look good on Saturday morning. I mean, so how much of a diamond did you think he was gonna be?
Right.
If you didn't do your part to support him or help or her or help them become the success that a diamond has to be, internally before they can be external.
Speaking of that, the pressure makes the diamonds. With your relationship growing up, there had to be some difficult times. Mm-hmm. So if you don't mind sharing, do you have a story or two about really difficult times where it was like, man, we were kind of at each other?
Interesting point. Didn't have a lot of money, hustling. Bought a house that sucked up all my money because between a house note and gas in Houston, 30 miles away from where he went to school, 30 miles away from where I worked, I couldn't just keep going back and forth from home once he got off of school every day.
Right.
2 stories, all right. One about money, one about the job I had. I worked at Xerox selling copiers. His school was right around the corner, right around off the highway, in Houston. I had to bring him. I had a choice. I had a truck at the time, a Sequoia, and it was like 100 degrees, 110 in Houston, so about 100. And in the parking lot, it was very hot. All right, so I couldn't leave him I had to go back to work that day. I couldn't go home after I left work. I had to go back to work after I picked him up from school. Mm-hmm. I had to bring him into my job. And there was a young lady named Sean. She was a receptionist. And they had 2 seats in the lobby. And ironically, my big boss, was in town from Dallas. And, it's almost like that. The Will Smith movie, I avoided watching that movie like the plague because, I'm always crying when I watch the movie because that's almost like draft night. It hit so hard, I just want to be by myself.
Same thing with my wife and her father. He was crying in that movie too.
Yeah,
so
it hit.
I cried in it. I didn't even have kids at that time.
It hit so hard, dude. I'm like, I'm gonna be crying.
Fix your mic real quick, I think.
So I'm sorry. And my boss is in town, so I was in a meeting, and he had fallen asleep in one of the 2 chairs, and my boss happened to walk out of the meeting and say, "Who's that child?" So Sean said, "That's Mr. Oubre's son," and he said, "Well, tell him he can't have kids in the building." I said, "All right, cool." So as a parent, single parent, I couldn't go home 30 miles. Didn't have a babysitter to drop him off at because I'm on foreign soil basically. Okay, I don't trust anybody enough with my son to leave him there or drop him off, and it'll be convenient where I can still have peace of mind and go back to work. Right. So either I leave him in a 100-degree truck in the parking lot, or I bring him into my job, even though I know my boss is there and I have a meeting that will probably last about an hour at Xerox. So I came out. Sean told me what my boss had said. It kind of broke me down to the point where, damn, is this one of those moments where I think about driving 5 hours back down the highway where I know it'll be easier and more convenient? At this time, Kelly was in probably the sixth grade. And it was, one of those defining moments. Mm-hmm. I had a decision to make. Do I quit now or do I keep going? I chose to keep going. All right, crying, tears and all. I chose to keep going. Second one, didn't have any money. Knew I would get. Well, I wasn't a Xerox anymore. I think I was working Sam's Club at night. This is before I got the Xerox job. Sam's Club at night, and something light in the maybe a teacher's aide. Wasn't getting paid much at all, but I still had a house note. Still had gas to put in the car.
Right.
But I knew I was direct deposit every other week when I got paid. All right, cool. Thanks. Direct deposit. The money's gonna be there. It might not be there now, but it's gonna be there.
Right.
So one thing I learned about Kroger is Kroger is a food store.
Okay.
That's
a Texas thing. Right?
Yeah. If you go to the self-checkout, you can get cash back even though the money's not in the account. If you go to the cashier, the card will be declined if she's required to give you or he's required to give you cash back. Okay. Any ATM I go to is going to decline my card because the money's not in there. But self-checkouts will give you up to $100 back.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And hit you when it comes into the account. You'll pay the fees after that, but
right.
I got the cash.
I wish I knew that when I was in college.
I got the cash. All I needed was the cash because all in the back seat, he just needs to know that Chick-fil-A is open, McDonald's is open in between practice and school, and life is going to be normal.
Right.
He don't have to worry about what I'm going through or what I'm doing or how I'm getting it done. He just sees I'm getting it done. So that was just two interesting pieces about the journey and the little anecdotes that meant the most. A lot of sleep deprivation going on. A lot of night shifts. A lot of odd jobs. Had a job selling Yellow Book, Yellow Page ads. That was humbling. But the more humbling thing was selling placards on the front of shopping carts.
Wow.
That was humbling too. Because keep in mind, by my own choice, I walked away from UPS making $25 an hour for a better life in Houston. Because I knew if I'd have gone back to New Orleans and worked for UPS, I would have never have had the impact on Kelly that I had today.
Right.
Because I had to make a decision. So, okay, let me reinvent myself. Let me get my degree and let me start basically all over again on foreign soil. And what did they say about the good mark of a salesman, a mark of a good salesman? You drop him in the jungle and he'll walk out fully clothed.
Yeah.
You know, I think I kind of had to reinvent myself a couple of times.
Right.
And that's almost like what I've instilled in him too. All you need is a stage.
Right.
If you get the stage, I mean, at that point you can show. So, and I think I've done my part to the best of my ability to try to create as good a person that I could. You know, of course he's 25, and a lot of my friends who have 25-year-old sons, they think it's so phenomenal that he's Superman. I said, no, he's 25. He still does.
Have you guys butted heads?
There's the pushback that comes with all men maturing or all children maturing.
Right.
Yeah, we did, and you know what brought us back together? The lessons I instilled before, the butting of the heads. Mm-hmm. When he just, I got it. He went rogue. He did all his own things. He met somebody. They were in his ear. Your daddy has too much control. Your daddy wants to be a part of everything. And of course, that was just a divide and conquer mentality that he was unexperienced with.
Machiavellian.
Yeah, of course. And once he realized what was going on, I need you. Okay. All right. Well, when you need me? I need you now. I'm in some stuff I got to get out of right now. And by the time I got back in, the whole Hegelian dialectic was at work. I mean, the powers that be had already hooked him up with a business, a lawyer, a business manager, another financial advisor. And so for the last roughly year, I've been doing cleanup work. I came in, I put a new financial team in place, I handpicked all proven men. And
you're his manager, but you're not his agent, correct?
Yeah, I don't want to be an agent because I'm limited in that space. Mm-hmm. Brought in an agent and,
There's been some NBA fathers that have kind of taken over. I think Tobias Harris's father has
Yes.
taken over as his agent.
Yeah.
My uncle actually was a sports agent for a number of years. He's an attorney. He used to represent a lot of the 49ers back in the 80s and 90s. Charles Haley was one of his clients and best friends.
Gotcha.
And so it's just interesting to see, now talking about the compromising and, people in the inner circle, the trusted advisors, as you mentioned, are now taking a bigger interest in the overall thing. Jen Johnson is Tyler's manager, and seeing all the things that they do. Like, I don't know how you could put somebody that you don't really know in a situation that you're trusting them so much, and it's a very important thing that you are a trusted advisor, whether that not be biologically, but it may be the sweat equity that you've put in year after year, not wanting anything, or just making sure that this person is good. And Tyler has a couple of really close friends, because when we hang out, he's got one friend that doesn't do anything other than just make sure Tyler's good. Used to live with him, will be right there. Hey, I need to go get the car. I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna pull it around, make sure everybody's good. Hey, Tyler, you sure you want to do that? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, all right, cool. Just making sure, but it's a daunting task to do what you do and what Jen does and so many other family members and parents. But I like the fact that they're looking out, because so many of these athletes have been taken advantage of for so long because they're an asset.
Right.
And, soon these assets are going to become liabilities, and those people aren't going to be around when that asset, the cash value diminishes, right?
Exactly.
We drive that car off the lot. Well, it's already depreciated extremely, an extreme amount, So I think it's very important what you're doing. What you do is a non-threatening way. You just want the best for your child.
Right.
And so many parents, they make it about them. Like, we won't name anybody, obviously, but so many parents want to be in the spotlight, and you don't want to do that. Jen doesn't want to do that, and I think that's the key. Like, fall back, let them take care of what they need to take care of, and you just continue to help them because they need your help.
Exactly.
And if they go off, like when I used to go off and not listen to my mom, I always come back, and just like your story there too.
Right.
So
you come back. I mean, and you're kind of forced back, but at that point, you can either push back and rebel even harder, or you can just have that moment and say, you know what, I need you. I need you. And I said, well, when he called me back, I says, okay, but you have to let me work this time. Because keep in mind, I was orchestrating everything to this point. Finlay Prep, high school, AAU, Adidas and Nike, Kansas. It's all about design. Tell people the Kansas story. The first time a coach came to watch Kelly play a high school basketball game, it was a Kansas assistant. I'm not going to mention his name because this probably is an embarrassing story to him. So the mighty Kansas, the representative that came, told me, Mr. Oubre, I would have gotten here earlier, but the guys' game down the street ran long. I was like, so what you're saying is Kelly wasn't your first choice? No, that's not what I'm saying. I said, okay. All right. Okay, well, how you doing, Coach?
First of all, you shouldn't have said that.
Well, technically, because, you're right.
Just don't even bring it up.
Yeah.
You just pulled up.
Yeah,
like,
but once again, I think he, in his assistant coaching capacity, I think he was just kind of arrogant in his ways, thinking that, because a couple of coaches, at the time, Georgetown recruited Kelly. The coach told me that, pretty much we don't recruit here at Georgetown. Georgetown recruits itself. I was like, okay, well, you don't even know me, and you just saw Kelly play a game last night, and you called me.
Well, they ain't won a national championship since the 80s.
So. My point exactly. But, and
I know Coach Callan that was out there recruiting these boys.
Right.
So.
It's like, dude, you kind of come across as living a little high off the hog here, based on, what your daddy has done. And for you to tell me that on the phone, you called me. I'm walking around at my security job at 12 o'clock at night, checking boxes. And you called me because you saw Kelly light it up for 40 yesterday, and you saw him light it up for 45 tonight. So now all of a sudden you want to make an offer over the phone, but you don't want to go through the recruitment process. You feel your university recruits itself or recruits for itself. So I was like, okay, coach, well, I'll make a note of it and we'll continue this conversation if you choose to be active in his recruitment moving forward. That's all I said. So obviously they weren't on the short list at the end of the day because of basically his body of work. I'll leave it at that, on and off the court. So like I said, all I needed was a stage.
Right.
Kansas, all I needed was a stage.
Right. And
it wasn't a veneration. As a matter of fact, the Kansas situation was funny because the head coach of Kansas came to watch him practice at the high school one day. But the high school coach in Texas already had plans for him to be pawned off to UT for a small fee. Problem with that was the high school coach got mad at Kelly when he saw the Kansas coach show up, because that's the top of the Big 12 right there. Why would I go to anybody else in the Big 12 if the top of the Big 12 just showed up and shows interest and is willing to give me a 4-year ride?
Right.
Therefore, the high school coach got mad and told Kelly, if you're not serious about the rest of these coaches, tell them stop coming.
Right.
We're talking about a junior in high school. So tell these people stop coming, basically because I can't get what I want out of the deal. And if you're not going to play ball, with who I want you to go with, then I'm going to make it hard for you at high school.
Right.
So that was what kind of helped, along with the McDonald's All-American and Jordan Brand Classic All-American conversation with regards to Finlay Prep, to give you a little backstory on that. So it was some interesting times. And once again, just paying points to PowerPoints, but maintaining a position of power the whole time. It's not, my power wasn't in question. It's just that I didn't have to flex all day and night. I knew what I had, and I love my son unconditionally. So it wasn't like it was a hard sell for me. I'm not coming to you with my hand out. If you have a stage that is beneficial to my son, then I'll hear you out respectfully. Because one thing I want to maintain with parents and trusted advisors and clarifiers is you have to maintain a level of respect with everybody you come across, good or bad.
Right.
Because some of these coaches that's just their personalities. They're in positions where they alter lives. And when you get to a point where you can alter lives, sometimes you get that God complex about you. And everybody around you sees it, but you can't see it for yourself until it's too late.
Right.
A la Mr. McDermott at Creighton as we speak. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, things now, how's that looking for Doug in the league right now, playing with all those brothers?
Right.
I mean, you're putting your son in a bad position, man. Are you not thinking here? Doug's probably a great kid.
Yeah.
But something his daddy said probably has caused tension in his son's workplace.
Right.
Because it's not the right time. Well,
you can say that for a number of the players in the league right now.
True.
Whether that be up in Sacramento or,
right.
down in New Orleans or
exactly.
wherever, the parents actually do hold weight, and you can actually really mess it up for your kids. Mm-hmm. Again, we won't say any names. But
no, and that's why I've never wanted to shine in Kelly's light.
Right.
Never, ever. I never wanted it to be something that I said off the cuff that would compromise him, at his job. Therefore, I appreciate the general manager because he's the general manager. I appreciate the coach because he's the coach.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a coach.
Speaking about the coaching, obviously he's with Steve Kerr now, and before in Phoenix, Monty Williams, and I forget the other guy's name.
It was Scott Brooks.
Scott Brooks.
Yeah, and it was Randy.
And then Randy Whitman. That was who drafted him. So, what is the relationship with like the parent and the coach? Is there any type of relationship that you guys have with the coaches, or do you just let that play out how it's supposed to play out?
In passing. How you doing, Coach? Yeah. How you doing, Super? That's it. I don't talk specifics. I don't talk strategy. I don't talk playing time. I just don't do it because I can have a conversation with them like I'm having with you right now, all day and all night about strategy, coaching, positioning, how this came to be. But at the end of the day, he's a coach or he's a general manager. I spoke to the owner of the Warriors. I introduced myself to him. We were waiting on our COVID results. I walked up, shook his hand. How you doing? Kelly Oubre Sr. Nice to meet you. Okay. We talked a little banter back and forth. I see him when I go and we're waiting for our COVID test. Shake his hand, keep it moving. It's not going to be a long, drawn-out conversation because this is my son's job.
Right.
This is his career. That's like, you as a parent, affecting your son's career or job.
Right.
Because you have something to say or you want to stand in that moment. It's not my moment to stand in. My place is to be in support of my young diamond.
Have you seen a difference in how organizations are run and, specifically with the Warriors? And I don't want to put you in a situation where you're going to talk bad about any other organization, but have you seen a difference with the structure that they have in place compared to the other places or even college as well,
Let me just say this about pro organizations, the three we've dealt with, and not throw anybody under the bus. I see differences between teams that are in contention and teams that are not. I see his first two teams were struggling with identity issues, whereas this team is not. I think success kind of helps you along those lines with regards to your identity and solidifying that, throughout the league and how you're respected and viewed, because it's somewhat of a cachet. Now, the benefits of a Washington was, and it's funny because I always tell Kelly, I says, you went to Kansas, but you graduated from Georgetown. What do you mean? He says, well, you went to Kansas for a year, but when you got to D.C., the owner, the general manager, the team president at the time was an instructor or professor at Georgetown. The guy playing in front of you went to Georgetown. You're playing in Georgetown's gym, basically, because they share the arena. And the guy in front of you's agent is tied to Big John Thompson, throughout the years. So I told him year two going into that, I said, they're not going to pay you.
Right. So, they just paid the guy in front of you.
The guy in front of you who stays hurt, who's hurt right now. And now, so I said, so let's be realistic about this. Okay, you could have done these last 2 years in college, but you didn't. So basically, be looking for rumblings in the media eventually about your trade bait because you're coming up on his year 3 extension at that point. But at that point, they had a decision to make about whether they want to keep him long term or pay the guy in front of him. So they paid that guy. And they had 2 other guys on the payroll they had paid to. One is in Houston now, and one is still with the team. So I said, I don't want you to be shocked when it comes up that, you're probably going to be in trade rumors, and they really don't owe you anything, other than we appreciate your services. So don't be in your feelings about it and go to the media because I want you to always, like I tell you, control your image and control your likeness. I play for a good team. I play for a good coach. Toe the company line. I don't care if the house is burning down behind you. Just toe the company line. So that's always been my talk track with him. Respect your coaches. Respect the organizations that are governing bodies. Okay? Because it is more important to you as a man to respect the entities that have put the structure in place that you perform within. Because you may be in a position where you can help facilitate that structure at a later date for somebody else. So grow in your space, but be respectful of all the players or the parties involved, coaches, general managers, owners, and everybody else, no matter what you personally think about them. Because at the end of the day, they all have a job to do, but you have a job to do too. So be true to yourself. And if you spend the majority of your time being true to yourself, you kind of will be less inclined to worry about what somebody else is doing or how they're doing their business. Right. And it is a business, and a lot of money is moving hands right now, within the business. So just look at yourself as a Ronin. Yeah. A Ronin, if you will. I mean, an Agogi Principle Ronin. And I try to just break it down for him and bring it back to naturalistic terms. And to get back on the Beast Developmental logo, I don't mean to jump off of one thing and onto something else.
You're good.
After we get past trusted advisors on the right, we have peers at the bottom. Okay. Now, before I go to peers, I want to make sure we identify the diamond in the middle, surrounded by 3 very thick walls.
Yep.
Okay. I always want our young diamonds to understand that we are going to be in a position to put them over their peers at all times, mentally, physically, emotionally. Every time they talk to us, we're going to reinforce the fact that they're greater than their peers at all times, because we want their mind to be trained to dominate, to understand their position at a larger, in a more advanced stage or frame over the peers that they compete against, compete with, and at the end of the day, are in competition with to get their compensation, put it that way.
Right.
Okay, if we segue to the left, past peers, if we're going to clockwise motion, we have trusted advisors. As you alluded to many times before, I'm sorry. We have governing bodies. I apologize. Governing bodies. Governing bodies are those that set forth the laws that the athlete or the worker has to operate within, or there will be consequences, both good and bad. Could be accolades, could be consequences. So Beast Developmental is a drone that hovers above the total aspect that affects, every aspect that affects the young diamond encased in those 3 walls. But the most important parts of Beast Developmental are the support system in place by Beast Developmental itself, which is myself and my team, and its trusted advisor to support the young diamond.
Right.
So I just wanted to get back on that because I know
I'm good. I'm glad
okay.
you got back to it.
Okay.
And you also have a book coming out.
Yeah.
Speak about that real quick. And
Yeah.
why now? Why a book now?
That's, you know what, talking to Everest one day, a publicist, he says, well, you gotta write a book. I says, well, I've always been one that has been very mindful of time being my ally, not my nemesis. And I never wanted to shine in Kelly's light. So it's not going to be a book about, woe is me, I did it, I'm at the mountaintop. No. What it is going to be, since I had to strategically think about, what could I give back in word form that I can give back verbally also, like I'm doing right now? We're going to talk about some anecdotes, some principles, some things that parents or trusted advisors or clarifiers can do to make sure that they don't become justifiers or Jurassic in the process of their young diamonds.
Right.
I think that's very important, like you alluded to, talking to some of these people via seminar and stuff like that. Well, we're in a COVID era, of course, and people are less inclined to get out for their health and safety,
Sure.
which I totally understand. But what good would a book do now if nothing other than to give anecdotes and fact-based information that I've actually gone through to help somebody in what they may be going through or will go through.
Right.
So if I can
And
position,
like you said, tried and true, $12,995. Right?
exactly, $12,995. I can't say it all changed, but it became more crystallized, honestly. And the biggest competitor of all, within ourselves is us. I mean, the biggest judge of our character and ourselves should be us, because we have to look in the mirror every morning. With that being said, I mean, you're not gonna outwork me.
Yeah.
I mean, my body at work speaks for itself to an extent, but I'm still building. I've yet to stop, and I have no intention on stopping anytime soon, God willing. But at the same time, so the book is going to be chocked with things, and open-ended questions to parents to think about, to maintain their power in the space that they've been grandfathered or basically given basically by the Most High.
Right.
Because the power of a parent in the life of a child, for all the right reasons, is priceless.
Yeah.
There's no monetary value you can put on it.
And the kids didn't ask to be here.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's important for the parents to make sure that they're guiding them in a direction that is going to be positive for their life, regardless of what they do. We barely even talked about like the dynamics of a child, but if you were teaching him to be successful with the Taekwondo, but that would translate, because I did martial arts too. My mom put me in martial arts when I was young, and you're teaching him discipline. And like you said, he's watching all the moves. He saw you, work those night jobs or, really all the odd jobs that you had. And you were transforming his mind without him even knowing it. And I think that's just a really poignant point. Like putting these things in perspective and just keeping it simple, I think is something that a lot of people miss. People want to make things so complicated and convoluted. And there was another point that you talked about earlier, like just sifting through the people that were in his life. Like you controlled who was in and who was out for the most part. You allow him to make his decisions and stuff like that. But it's just my feeling is keep it simple as much as possible so you're able to see the clarity through it all. And I would just say I really appreciate the demeanor that you have. I find so many similarities in just the intellectual nature that we both have, and always seeking and mostly observing, and seeing how things are moving. And I always want to be in front of things. I don't want to have to be reactive. Now I will react to them if need be, but I always want to make sure that I'm seeing what I think could happen and then making adjustments from there.
And the thing about that is you alluded to the people that come into their lives. And I've always told Kelly this, and at first he didn't understand, but he understood perfectly when his 3 friends didn't make the cut. I said, Kelly, everybody I bring into this circle will be on a performance basis. If they have no performance, they have no basis. And at first, okay, all right. Then I had to show him what I was talking about. He happened to have 3 friends who really didn't have a basis. So what I did was I isolated them. And I talked to them about what they thought their strengths were. Turns out that instead of being friends in his house who were living for free, being entertained for free, and eating, entertained, and I guess technically being at his beck and call wasn't really their strong suits, because this was all matters of convenience to them and they had no skin in the game. So as they accumulated parking tickets or speeding tickets in his cars, they had no skin in the game, therefore they weren't on the hook for anything.
Right.
So they kind of had no basis and no performance to go along with no basis, because the question was simply, well, why are you here? Because you bring no value. Now, it turns out that from that, I showed him that one's interest was in real estate, one's interest was in truck driving, and one didn't even have an interest. And I had to show him better than I could tell him. Because at first, you're picking on my friends. But second, oh, Daddy, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I said, so can I work now? Yeah, you can work now. So, that's what we worry about when we bring people in, to be on a performance basis, and that keeps the team very skinny if you do that. Because they know the expectations are set. Why are you here? Are you a justifier? Because it's obvious you're not a clarifier, because you just got here. So either you're going to get on board with what we do here, in its simplest form, or we have no place for you long term.
Yeah.
And if you're passing through, we'll just say that then.
Yeah.
So I think that's the beauty of it all, and the messages that I want to convey. At Beast Developmental is our call.
Yeah.
So our social media outlet. So with regards to the book, I want to put some stuff in there that is beneficial. Not preachy, not wordy-gurdy, not look at me, not you wish you could be like me and I got all this. And no, it's not about that. It's about getting back and promoting these family units. And my intent is to hopefully have the father and mother to be trusted advisors, not just one or either or, to be in support. Because at the end of the day, I think Beast Developmental is in a position to be a catalyst to promote strong, healthy families, regardless of gender. Regardless of race, And in this climate, regardless of gender, I mean, if you come, just come. Come with clean hands. Mm-hmm. Please. Am I asking too much?
No. Sometimes for some people, you are.
Just come with clean hands, man.
Yeah. What's next for you outside of the book, and what are some personal things that you want to accomplish in the near future?
We got 325 coming up, and we'll see what the future holds for Kelly as a ball player in this area. I always say with every city that we're in, we love it here, we love to stay, but I think Kelly has brought value to the situation, like he brings value everywhere he goes, because he just wants to hoop.
Right.
He wants to contribute to the team dynamic and the team concept. He's coachable. Right. He's a ball player, and he just wants to play basketball at the highest level possible.
Well, I hope it's still here. Just as a fan of the Warriors, and a long athletic wing like him, he does so many great things on the court. Very similar, not similar, but like Draymond has an extreme impact on the game. Anybody that watches the game knows that he is impacting the game, and Kelly has that same type of demeanor to him, where it's like he's impacting the game when he's on there. He struggled early on in the season, and then has really come around. He dropped 40, a few weeks back, and just playing with Steph, I really liked it. And Steph needs help on the defensive end. So now you can put Kelly on a longer defender where he might have to, help out while Clay's out. And I think if Clay comes back, and that's a really good, solid team.
Exactly. Considering what the other teams are doing within the league at the wing position. I mean, it might not be, very wise to purge at that position.
No.
I think there are other positions that you can make up for, but to purge at that position, considering the nature of the league and where it's going, and you're dealing with players who don't get exposed in switches, whereas there are certain teams that play for switches. They'll wind the whole shot clock down just to get the perfect matchup. But if you're flipping from 1 to 4, or sometimes 1 to 5, and you're holding your own, I think that's a valuable asset that upper management, has a keen eye to pay attention to, but sometimes you have to realize that the work on both ends of the floor will supersede that one-sided approach, because the success will be determined throughout the whole game, not just the successes on one half of the floor or the court. So that's just my philosophy on basketball. And like I said, it depends on what team you go to. The needs are different.
Right.
But Kelly is acclimated in both the East and the Western divisions now. So, he understands that he is, basically in a position to do great things wherever he is.
Right.
And like I said, he likes it here, but, we'll see.
Well, I think he'll still be here after the deadline, and, we'll see what the cards lay out from the man upstairs. But I really appreciate your time, man.
Anytime,
we've gone almost over 2 hours, and
I didn't even pay attention.
It's been a great conversation.
Likewise.
You didn't have to come down here and do this, and just appreciate your time and sharing your story. You got a powerful story. So many, not just parents, just people can learn from just seeking information.
Yeah.
Be a seeker of information and be well-rounded, which you very much are. So, Mr. Oubre Sr., thank you for joining the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Okay. All right.
My man, thank you very much.
You're welcome. More than welcome. You got all that?
Yeah, I got all that.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.